Pinto.
Thank you, Dr. Stanovich. So we all know on Thursday, our narcotics group was involved in an investigation involving the arrest and then subsequent death of Keeven Robinson. We know at that moment that they used force during that arrest in order to make the arrest and effect the arrest after a pursuit and after a foot chase. On Saturday, May 12th, Dr. Stanovich advised me that of these initial findings that he's just released. Our JPSO Homicide Division was called back in on Saturday, along with all 4 of the detectives involved in this incident in order to cooperate in a criminal investigation. That's what we do as part of any type of homicide investigation. Our officers were read their rights. They cooperated. They gave statements. I understand that this investigation will be under a microscope. I understand it fully. I made the phone call on Saturday to contact Colonel Reeves with the Louisiana State Police. I asked for his office to also come in to do a joint investigation with us. Never can have too many sets of eyes to make sure we're doing it properly. I have every faith in the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office to do their job and do it correctly. I know they have the expertise because it's what they do every day. But I also understand that an independent set of eyes is something that's appropriate in a case like this. This investigation is just beginning. You have this office. You'll have the state police. You'll have the FBI Civil Rights Task Force, which I also notified on Saturday and spoke with them yesterday also. They'll look into this matter, take all the statements, review the evidence from the final autopsy report to make any determinations that are necessary. That's what the job is supposed to happen. And all of those agencies have been notified and are cooperating. As I said, this investigation is continuing. We ask any members of the public that may have information in this matter, call us, give us the information. Let us take your statement, 504-364-5300. If you have information into this incident, we'd like to know about it. I'm also departing from another. I have all of our detectives in this matter. They all will be reassigned to administrative duty at this point in time. They're being reassigned until this investigation can be completed. We understand that they have a job to do, and sometimes that job is difficult, by all means. But under these circumstances, we believe it's appropriate for them to be on administrative duty until the conclusion of the investigation is complete. JPSO understands its obligations to the citizens of Jefferson Parish, and we take that obligation very seriously. We'll continue with this investigation jointly with the state police, and then when that investigation is complete, we'll release its findings. With that, I'll take any questions.
How many detectives were reassigned?
There are 4 detectives that are reassigned, Michelle.
They were narcotics detectives?
They were.
Can you release their names?
I'm not releasing the names at this time, Ramon, but I'll probably later in the week.
Sheriff, where did the notion of the young man dying of asthma come from?
Well, we knew he had asthma at the time. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Normally in a case or any type of case, you know what the cause of death is at the time of the scene. You know, in this case, they were in a struggle. They used force. They admitted to use force, but I think the investigation will have to complete, but I knew on the scene that the gentleman had asthma. I also knew that it was a bad air day. You know, I knew all those things that existed, but that doesn't mean, and as I said on Thursday, an autopsy had to be determined to determine what the cause of death was. Those were just, you know, findings from me that I think can all be contributory, but that's what we knew on Thursday. An autopsy wasn't done on Thursday.
Did any of your deputies suggest that they applied pressure to Mr. Robinson's neck?
And that investigation is going to continue, and that's why we need to go through their statements and continue with their statements.
And if you were Dr. Stanovich, we talk more about this traumatic injury to the neck. Does that insinuate, from being a medical professional or a law enforcement professional, that somebody did squeeze, grab, or lean on someone's neck? Is that how that traditionally is caused, traumatic injury to the neck?
Joe, you want to take that?
Yeah, that's a reasonable conclusion of what you just said, actually. I couldn't have said it better myself.
I mean, is there any indication from these detectives what led to this? I mean, obviously chasing him and?
They were in a fight.
What was?
No, they were in a fight. I mean, they were in a narcotics, investigation. Narcotics was found. I mean, but the reality of it is they were in a fight with this gentleman affecting arrest. There's no doubt about that. Now, that determination has to be made of, our police officers have to use force and are justified in using force in many cases. But it depends on their use of force compared to, what was being done on the scene and what the findings of the science does. That's what we do in law enforcement, and that's what the investigation will determine.
Does the sheriff's office have a policy on the use of chokeholds?
Well, generally speaking, you're never going to, and I'm not, from a policy standpoint, we don't train somebody to hit someone with a brick. But if you're fighting for your life and the brick's there, you hit someone with a brick. The reality of it is those determinations will have to be made, but I'm not coming to the conclusion that this was a chokehold. I don't want a chokehold being there that this was the conclusion.
Are deputies forbidden from doing that?
They're not forbidden from doing that, but they're not trained, obviously, to do that on a normal basis. I mean, that's not a normal call.
Sure. I'm John Anderson with Enough Community, represent Shrewsbury.
Yes.
For Enough. And as a civil rights and economic justice activist, we've been experiencing deaths of our young people all across the country. Right now, we do know that this was a sting operation. So what we want to do is ask you guys to suspend any sting operations, and let's come with a new type of relationship of community policing with sting operations. Because what's happening is, because of the substance of mass destruction that the CIA has brought into this country, it's caused our community has been using these different things as a economic vehicle, and we've been targeted, put in the prison industrial complex. So to turn this around, we have to do something different. And of course, we do know there's elements of KKK prejudice in law enforcement.
No, Travis, I'm not. But you're not gonna. Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're just asking that you suspend the sting operations and work with us to make this transparent, and not just here, but across the country, because this is causing a lot of deaths upon our children.
But Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office has an obligation to the citizens of Jefferson Parish. And we get complaints all day long from drug activity within Jefferson Parish itself. Our operations have to continue. That's the reason that we live in the safer community that we do. Our operations will continue. These particular officers will be put on administrative duty, but we're not going to suspend operations because of one incident. We investigate. The reality of it is crime is an all-time low in Jefferson Parish, and I'm very proud of that. Somebody's family actually lost a life, and I'm very cognizant of that today. That doesn't mean the officers did anything wrong, or it may mean that they did something wrong. We have to have the ability to get to that conclusion and put that to a district attorney and let the district attorney make that decision. But to automatically suspend any type of operation based off of an outcome is inappropriate, and that's not something that would happen.
That was the sheriff/attorney speaking. Did you hear him say, oh, they were in a fight. They were in a fight, because he's trying to convince you that Keeven was kicking ass. But let me explain why I don't buy that. Nobody bought that, because his first and second cervical vertebrae were separated in his neck. So there's 7 vertebrae in the neck. The first and the second was separated, which means he was most likely paralyzed from the neck down. Not only was he most likely paralyzed from the neck down, that's an injury that is most oftentimes fatal. He also had his left vertebral artery was lacerated. That is the artery that supplies blood to your brain, blood to your spinal cord. So he wasn't getting any blood to his brain or his spinal cord. Most likely, he was paralyzed from the neck down. He was also in cardiac arrest, and he had also had an asthma attack. So what kind of fight really was Keeven in? Now, this encounter lasted all of 5 minutes. And, he was asthmatic, and he had ran out of the car. And it was a brief foot chase. So when Sheriff Lopinto is trying to convince everyone that his officers were in the fight of his life, no, they weren't in a fight, the fight of his life, because we're talking about a 4-on-1 situation. And they were saying, oh, his hands, he wouldn't we couldn't get his hands. He was, resisting. Remember this 14108 resisting arrest. He was resisting. Resisting what? Could he move? Could he move at all? All of this happened within 5 minutes. We're talking about Keeven leaving the gas station, going to the bar in Lurline, getting out of the car, and just a little bit of a chase, a little bit of a foot chase there, maybe a minute. And he's talking about Keeven was resisting. If he was resisting, how long did he resist before he went into cardiac arrest, the asthma attack, being paralyzed from the neck down, and not having any blood going to his brain and his spinal cord? And brace yourself for the details of the autopsy report. Seriously, brace yourself. It's pretty graphic, but also it's pretty sick, because Keeven had an injury to a certain